I see a lot of questions, people will talk about their USMLE scores or attempts, and they'll say, okay, what are my chances of matching? I really think that's not a good approach to take, because firstly, you're kind of questioning your own self, and you're asking, what are my chances of matching into, say, internal medicine? I think a better question would be, okay, here's my score, here is what I have. How can I strengthen my application further? That should be the approach I would highly
Yeah.
encourage.
Well, tell me about yourself. Tell me what you do.
I started ed4medus.com, I'm going to say, service that I started last fall. I'm a full-time attending physician, nephrologist. I myself am an international medical graduate, and after, working with some international medical graduates who started observership with us a few months ago, I kind of just realized there's so much anxiety out there and so much I'm going to say confusion, misinformation about the whole application process. So really thought, given my knowledge of how the residency selection process works, what helps, what doesn't help, medical, graduates and applicants who apply for residency. So I really chose to start this service, and have a Facebook group and a YouTube channel and a Twitter account, just so that I can connect with as many medical graduates as I can, provide them the right information, because that is key. And so you would see from my posts that I really focus on quality, because that's what I guess is missing out there. I do have personal statement and CV editing service that I run, an interview preparation, as the season approaches. So that's what I'm doing right now.
That's great. That's great. And do you have, like, how have you helped other people so far?
So far, it's been going very well. I started last August, and I worked with many applicants who were looking for interview prep. Almost all are international medical graduates, which I'm not totally surprised. And I've had a lot of earlier this year I did have a lot of it's called one-on-one consultations. That is,
Mm-hmm.
should I apply for US residency, should I not, should I apply next year, how do I strengthen my application? So I've had those sessions also, and also the personal statement review process, that's also going very strong, and it's going very well, and I'm glad I'm able to help um, international medical graduates work on their personal statements, improve it, and bring it to standards so that they can compete with other applicants and medical graduates.
And what do you think a resident or an applicant is, what makes an applicant a good competitor?
So it all starts with the scores on
Mm-hmm.
USMLE. Not, and if I have to think of scores, certainly, having the first pass on all the exams, I think that's key. So the bottom line is, if you have to take your exam, step 1, step 2, CKCS, step 3, please do your very best to pass it on the first attempt. Certainly, if you can get above average scores, that's a very good start. It really, gives you a strong foundation when you apply for residency. A lot of good letters of recommendation, especially, when applicants rotate here in the US, that helps a lot. And then research is helpful. It's difficult for me to say that it's mandatory. I really think, as an international medical graduate, having some research experience in the form of case reports, maybe review papers, survey studies, I think it really helps, and adds a little bit more. It just shows your commitment to that field a little bit more. Besides that, having a good personal statement, making sure you're describing all your strengths as best as you can, and having a well-rounded CV, having a hobby, an extracurricular activity that really interests you. I think just putting it all together, that really makes a person as a very strong applicant for residency.
There's a lot of people that they have asked me in my group, what if I don't have letters of recommendation from American attendings?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, at this time, I fully realize that because of the COVID-19, the rotations, many rotations, observerships, externships have been placed on hold. So I guess the only few options would be, try to see if tele-rotations might be a possibility. I've seen some third-party companies offering that, so that's one option. Try to see if you can at least, work on your research side. If
Mm-hmm.
you can at least, if you were in the middle of writing a research paper or a case report, make sure you've kind of moved it to completion. And I think the last thing then you can do is, try to get letters of recommendation from your attendings back home. I mean, those are the only options. There's kind of nothing more you can do about that.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about now about the application. There's a lot of people that they don't know what they should write in their personal statement.
Right.
Because like we are international medical graduates and we are not trained to write that. So what do you think how they should organize it, what they should not write in the personal statement?
Absolutely. And so, yes, I've done some YouTube videos on this, but I'm very happy to quickly summarize it for your
Mhm.
group. Now, yes, I do realize, international medical graduates, we have kind of never written a personal statement.
Mhm.
And so even when I applied for residency many years ago, it was tough. It was a daunting task for me. And so, but as you keep reading and looking at some samples that are available, at my website and out there, I think the few common features of every personal statement are, there's one that I call the hook. There's something in
Mhm.
a journalism or writing called the hook or the lead, LEDE, which is basically some kind of a story that really grabs the attention of the reader. And I really think that should be the first paragraph of the personal statement. And it could be things like I had posted a YouTube video about someone developing an app, some for blood pressure monitoring. Someone has talked about how service that is volunteering to go out in the community in rural India, and how it gave them a lot of meaning that really helped them to kind of pursue internal medicine or family medicine. And so it's that one story, or maybe it might be a patient story or something outside medicine also. Like, for example, I read one personal statement where the applicant was talking about chess and
Oh.
how he kind of moved forward in becoming, I'm not going to say a national champion, but I think at a state level or something beyond more than a hobby. And so he was kind of drawing parallels between chess and
Okay.
medicine, music, sports. There's so many things that make us unique. And um, I really think one really needs to spend some time to think what's very strong, what's very meaningful to them, and see if they can draw some experiences, either from medicine or outside, to put in that personal statement.
I think that what you said is really like is nice because like what makes you unique, you
Absolutely.
know? Because sometimes what happened to me is that sometimes I'm thinking about what others are going to think about me,
Hmm.
but I need to know what I think about me and why should I write in the personal statement.
Absolutely. So, for example, because if we think about it, that's how a program director will recognize you. For example, let's say if they're talking amongst themselves, they'll remember. Okay, you're talking about the one who played chess, or you talk about the one who played tennis and did very well. So that's how they will. They will kind of use, rather than going by recognizing you as a person from this country, or or those kind of things. So it's your qualities that will stand out. People can talk about skydiving or something. There's some, or all this, this travel. It's called backpacking. People go to different countries and love to travel. So
Mm-hmm.
those are very, very unique things. Everyone goes into medicine to help. Help
Yeah.
patients to
Mm-hmm.
learn, and that's not very, very interesting. And um, so you have to show your unique side in the personal statement, and certainly in that first paragraph it should really stand out.
Uh, what they should not write at all, like what or which are the most common mistakes that people do when they write a personal statement?
Absolutely. So some mistakes, if you're talking about the content, that
Yeah.
really, turns off a program director. Certainly if there are, like, people are exaggerating. For example, if they wrote one case report and they say, I know all about research, then people are, then it truly stands out as someone making false claims. So that's so any exaggerations, lies, things that are not, if there's a lack of consistency. For
Mm-hmm.
example, if the person had a lot of, I'm going to say, um, experience in surgery, like some folks, especially international graduates, like from India and all, they'll do surgery, but they'll do surgery because that's what they practice there. And then coming to the US, you can't get surgery as easily and change ship, they go to medicine. So if the whole application is strong for surgery, but then you're applying for medicine, and not having an explanation why you're doing all that, that really, turns off a program director. Other things besides the content, how, I'm going to say, grammatical mistakes, errors, that's all, that also really, it just shows that you're not, considering it this an important exercise, or you're not interested in talking about yourself to the program director. Other things to include are, why have you chosen the specialty? I think that's key. Again, whether it's something that happened on the rotations, or, the kind of role models you had, or the kind of problems that, people solve in that specialty, you can talk about that. I really don't think people need to write about why they went to med school, because that's kind of not needed. You have to
Okay.
talk more
Mm-hmm.
about, you know,
Like.
what in medical school
Mm-hmm.
got you interested in pursuing a specialty. And
Okay.
then, so that's the second paragraph. The third and the fourth paragraph are pretty much your strengths. You try to write about your strengths. Maybe someone likes, organizing stuff or patient education. I do sometimes suggest that, if there is a very clear red flag, like a long gap, since graduation, I think it just makes some sense to at least try and explain that a little bit. Don't give too much details, not too much personal details, but just something, so that, I don't want to read a personal statement and think, okay, this person's hiding something. I don't know what happened these, like, 2 years, since graduation. So you have to really make sure you can reveal more details at the interview, but at least you have to show that you realize there's a gap made, there's a weakness, or something that needs to be explained. So I think that's a good strategy. And lastly, you have to write what kind of a program you're looking for, and how you can contribute to that program.
What I
Yeah, exactly. Mhm.
sorry, what I did that to tell others is I did like kind of brainstorming
Okay.
at the beginning. So I start like writing, okay, what I want to write in this paragraph,
Mhm.
then in the other paragraph. And then I start like organizing my ideas in a paragraph. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the right way to go. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even I did this when I did my personal statement many years ago. I would, like, take
Mm-hmm.
one whole page, just to write that one paragraph, and then
Mm-hmm.
over time scratching out things, striking out things that, I could leave out in that paragraph. And
Mm-hmm.
over time it became, smaller from 5 pages to two, 2.5, two, and then finally got it all to one page. So, but I think that strategy of first identifying what you can put in all those paragraphs, and then slowly, like, weeding out or removing the things that don't sound very interesting, and then try to package it all in one page. It's a difficult exercise, but it is possible, and a lot of people have done it. So um, that's perfectly a very good strategy.
And I think it's a good idea. I don't know what you think, but it's a good idea that after you write it, there's a lot, like, you need help, right? And you need that other people read your personal statement.
Absolutely. So, once, and this happens not just for personal statements, even
Mm-hmm.
like, if you're writing like a research paper,
Mm-hmm.
when I've written, everything looks so nice to me. And then when you send it out for reviews, they're like, okay, this paragraph needs to be rewritten or that. So it's always nice to have a fresh pair of eyes, look at your personal statement, get feedback. From that's a service that I run, and there are other services out there. So those are at least some good resources out there to do the proofreading. But absolutely, there has to be someone besides you who will look into your application and say, okay, it looks okay, or this thing doesn't make sense, or this doesn't fit, and take the feedback and and improve upon it. My whole take on personal statement is, if you have kind of like an application on the weaker side, I really think a strong personal statement can help at least get the program director interested enough to offer an interview.
Yeah. And what about the CV?
Yes.
So how they should organize it, what they should write in the CV. Also, there's people that they are scared because what is going on right now. So there's a lot of people that they couldn't go and do their observership. So yeah.
Absolutely. Most of the stuff is pretty self-explanatory. I'll talk about a few things. One is when you're
Mm-hmm.
writing about work experience, like, for example, the clinical experience, especially when you're talking about U.S. clinical experience, like the observerships and externships. Some of the CVs I've seen, it's kind of being very, very lengthy. The descriptions are being very, very lengthy, and it's not adding stuff. For example, folks are writing, I performed history and physicals, I counseled the patient, I talked with the patient, I send prescriptions. I really think people have to be a little bit more concise and strategic, and also at that time, also talk about what was different that they did in that observership. For example, if someone did like like I've had some observers in nephrology, and the way some of those CVs were like, okay, I kind of shadowed and observed patients being taken care of, or on dialysis. And then the second point right away would be, I did a presentation on, say, polycystic kidney disease, or hypertension. And the third, I did a group presentation on this or that. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, everyone knows in an observership and externship, that's what you do. You see
Mm-hmm.
patients, and that will
Mm-hmm.
be shown on the letter of support. But what was that extra thing that you did that should come up, towards the top of that description? Again, this is called strategic writing. We have to be more, and our attention spans are going down. We all know that. So very quickly, a program director will very quickly scan it and really needs to know, okay, this guy or person did something more than just seeing patients. They did a literature search. Maybe they identified a good case report. They put the effort to talk to their attending about something that they reviewed. The other part that I kind of focus on is hobbies. So, this
Mm-hmm.
is another very interesting thing. And, one really needs to question, why is a program interested in hobbies, and in your hobbies and extracurricular activities? And I think the goal is, one, to see if there might be a connection there. So if someone is,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, into music and plays, I don't know, in an orchestra or something, I'm sure that will be picked up by another faculty or program director who's interested in music. So it allows, it shows them that, likely that's going to be a good fit, or, the interview will be much, will go much better. So they really, really
Mm-hmm.
want you to have something that you do outside medicine to kind of still be creative, still be doing things, and maintaining balance in life. So those are the two reasons. And, like I've posted in my group, writing things like listening to music. No, that's not what should go in a hobby. You should write more stuff. Yeah, like someone was talking about singing karaoke and those kind of things. And that's good because, then it tells the program director, okay, this applicant will get along well with my residents because they're more social, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, there's some people that they want to do many things at the same
Absolutely.
time, but at the end they don't finish doing nothing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So one, that's where this whole, one really needs to prioritize, for example, in the personal statement. I'm sure, people have like 5 or 10 qualities. They should highlight the few, 3 or 4 that are
Mm-hmm.
much stronger in their
Mm-hmm.
application. And that should really go into personal statement. You can't include everything on your personal statement. Or if you don't have a hobby, that I'm going to say that doesn't look nice on an application because like I said, residency is tough, so programs need to be sure that you have something to de-stress.
Yeah, absolutely. Do
So,
you think is if there's someone that is working in his or her hometown, do you think that that's a good idea? Like they to show that they have a clinical experience in their hometown.
yeah, I think so. I mean, if program directors, all the programs do know that, I mean, the rotations were canceled even for medical students here in the US.
Mm,
So, it's going to be even much tougher for international graduates to then, do these rotations or US clinical experience. So I think, yes, you're right. Do what you can back at home. And again, you have to keep doing something to show that you've been busy rather than you just can't be sitting at home doing nothing. That's all I'm trying to say here. So you have to like keep asking around for opportunities, looking around, asking what other people are doing. And I'm sure there are a lot of people, who a lot of programs who need volunteers. For example, the place where I am, because of this whole COVID-19, they were looking for more volunteers for, it's called Meals on Wheels, and everything. So you're doing some stuff, maybe not medical, but besides that, at your home country, I think it's perfectly valid to at least show that you're still in the medical practice, you're still seeing patients, you're still talking with them, and at least improving your medical skills, your clinical skills.
yeah.
And maybe getting letters from those attendings. I mean,
Mhm,
if
mhm.
that might be your only option, I guess. And programs will have to be more flexible this year, looking at letters from writers outside US. Well, the COVID has just changed everything. So you're asking that, programs who have clearly indicated in the past they want US clinical experience, what are they going to do? Are they going to accept this outside US experience? It's very difficult to say what the stand of each program would be. I'm going to say that, international medical graduates are still going to be in demand in the US. They make up about 25% of the resident population. So, they're still going to be needed. Um, and um, so programs, I would say it's still worth trying, especially if you have already done all your
Mhm,
steps and
mhm.
you have at least some letters, you have done all your research and everything, then I think it's still worthwhile applying this year. um, and the interviews, the tours, everything will be done online, at least as of now. So I think it's perfectly fine to do that, because then if you don't, then you're gonna have to like wait another year, and then no one knows what's gonna happen next year. Things. are they going to go back to like, you're then kind of going, you're extending the years of graduation, years since graduation, and that's another red flag, programs will consider. So I would say if everything's done and the only part missing is a little bit of US clinical experience, I would say it's okay to apply and see
Yeah,
what happens and go from there.
it's always better to try.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
certainly if people have not taken any exams, then I would say
yeah.
yes, then, it's best to wait.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's better not to rush because
absolutely.
there's people that they also want like to apply this year and it has to be this year, but they are not ready. So take it
Absolutely.
easy. So as I told you already, I didn't match. This is my fourth time. And I know there's a lot of people in the same boat. So um, what do you have to say to them? Like, what do you want to tell people who haven't matched?
Yeah. So when people don't match, yes, it's very frustrating. It's very disappointing. People spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money too
Mm-hmm.
in the whole application season. And I totally understand that. I would say if people are not matching, they really have to, try and figure out why that is. Is it is it someone who got a lot of interviews and then didn't match? Then it really
Mm-hmm.
means that they didn't do well on the interviews. Maybe their whole approach needs to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
Or if is this someone who just didn't get any interviews despite having very good scores? Maybe it's how they're presenting their personal statement or how the letters are looking. So I think whenever there has to be a little bit of when someone is not matching, they really have to see what went wrong or what was lacking in my application, and try to overcome it the next time. So and that's the best you can do. For example, there are going to be some specialties that absolutely it's very, very difficult for international medical graduates to get into. I'll say dermatology, ophthalmology. It's very clear. So if someone is not matching into those specialties, is it time to choose another specialty? That's a thing to consider. But if it's like for popular residency, like family medicine, internal medicine, psychiatry, pathology, that neurology that we know is more feasible is more reachable for international medical graduates. If they're not getting into it, they really need to look at or have have a mentor look at their application, or services like mine where I would go through and try to identify, okay, you need to make sure you take your step 3, or you need to kind of get more research experience, something like that. Some people have who didn't match have done things like research fellowships or MPH to really build up their application. So there are a couple of strategies if people still want to go into residency training. I don't have much control over the visa situation.
Mm-hmm.
If they're looking for certain visas, that does make it difficult again for international graduates. So it's a combination of finding out what didn't work the first time and improving upon it the next time, and trying not to make the same mistakes again. And I'm going to say more networking, I guess, will also be
Okay.
very helpful. I
Mm-hmm.
really, I really think that really helps. And this was again in one of my interviews that I did, where where the doctor who matched, so she did a research fellowship, and that's how she built her networking, at the conferences, and got more clinical experience, and wrote a textbook. And so she really, really worked hard to network, and that really allowed her to get good letters of support and match.